answer for what you have done.
Yone, turn back.
You have dishonored us. You swore to protect him!
You swore to protect Ionia. Look around you, brother. Your honor stains the ground.
Better than living without it.
Since his childhood, Yasuo has been viewed unfavorably. His very existence was a lapse in judgment. At worst, he was a mistake that could never be undone. Similar to most anguish, there was an element of truth to it. His mother was already nurturing a young son. He was the illegitimate son of a widowed mother by an extramarital affair. His father had left the family before Yasuo was born, so he didn't remember his father's face. Even though Yasuo's older half-brother Yone was everything Yasuo was not, respectful, cautious, conscientious, the two were inseparable. When other children teased Yasuo, Yone was there to defend him. Unlike Yasuo, who was stubborn and proud, Yone was polite and sincere, and always stood by his brother's side. Time passed and Yone began his apprenticeship at the town's renowned swordsmanship school. Yasuo, eager to emulate his brother, pursued entry as a trainee. However, the school attempted to turn Yasuo away because he was too young to learn swordsmanship. Seeing him waiting outside the door in the rain for days on end, finally, he was accepted as a cultural student. Yasuo showed natural talent and became the only student to catch the attention of Elder Suma, last master of the legendary wind technique. The old man saw Yasuo's potential, but the impulsive pupil refused his tutelage, remaining unbridled like a whirlwind. Yone pleaded with his brother to set aside his arrogance, gifting him a maple seed, the school's highest lesson in humility. The next morning, Yasuo accepted the position as Suma's apprentice and personal bodyguard. And so the years went by, and when they were both adults, their country is facing an unprecedented crisis in its history. The Emperor of Noxus has launched a major invasion, led by the infamous General Swain. The Ionian Legion, which has sought nothing but peace for so long, was unable to offer even minimal resistance. After a series of one-sided defeats, losing most of the ports and castles on the front lines. But a singular event in Flash Diem changed the course of the war. A nameless warrior from Navori has defeated the forces of Noxus Commander Swain, and news of the victory had been announced. This event, known as the Great Resistance of Hanal Flash Diem, sparked new hope among the Ionians. With the rise of the nationwide resistance inspired by the great miracle of one girl, the tide began to turn. The invasion escalated into a full-fledged war as every man ran to the front, sword drawn, vowing to give his life for his country. Yasuo yearned to join the battle with his sword, but he had no choice but to restrain his fighting spirit. As a courtier, he bore the weighty responsibility of safeguarding the remaining elders. Despite his skill with the blade, he was compelled to watch helplessly as his classmates and brother went off to fight, unable to aid them. All Yasuo could do was watch in agony, convinced that his superior sword skills could turn the tide in their favor. One night, as Yasuo finished his usual meal, a golden opportunity presented itself. The distant sound of drums echoed across the nearby valley, signaling the march of the Noxian army. Unable to restrain his impulses, Yasuo abandoned his post, foolishly believing he could turn the tide of battle. Little did he know the tragedy that would unfold. Running tirelessly day and night, Yasuo finally reached the source of the ominous drum beats. However, the battlefield he had imagined was nowhere to be found. Instead, he was met with a scene of devastation. Bodies of soldiers lay scattered and unrecognizable amidst melted rocks, a sickening stench of burning, and an eerie force of light in the sky. A terrible catastrophe had struck this place, a force beyond the control of mere swords and arrows. Filled with a newfound awakening, Yasuo raced back to the school with every ounce of strength he could muster. Sobered by the events, Yasuo returned to the school the next day, only to find himself surrounded by the remaining students, their swords drawn. Elder Soma was dead, and Yasuo was not only accused of dereliction, but also of murder. Realizing that the true killer would escape justice if he did not act swiftly, Yasuo fought his way free, knowing that this would only further solidify his apparent guilt. Before the war's end, Yasuo became a fugitive and embarked on a quest to uncover the true culprit. Constantly pursued and hunted by his former allies, he was forced into numerous battles, each one filled with sorrow as he fought back with tears in his eyes, cutting down those who pursued him. "If I avenge my master's enemies, I will pay for all my sins in the future." That precarious promise sustained Yasuo's crumbling heart. But soon, Yasuo was tracked down by the man he feared most, his brother, Yone. Reading everything in his brother's eyes, Yasuo realized that further excuses were pointless. Bound by honor, they circled each other. When their swords finally met, Yasuo's mastery of wind techniques overcame Yone's dual blades, and with a single flash of steel, the outcast cut down his own brother. As he collapsed in his brother's arms, Yone closed his eyes and revealed the truth, that it was the techniques of the wind that killed their elder, and Yasuo was the only one in the land who knew it. Yasuo cried out and begged his brother to forgive him, but his heart went out to Yone, who was already dead. The guilt of killing a beloved brother and master. The terrible pain became a nightmare, and an unidentifiable voice in his head that haunted him constantly. Yasuo roamed the mountains distraught, drinking away the pain of war and loss, a sword without a sheath. As Yasuo was nearing the end of his life, a new and unexpected fate befell him. There in the snow, Yasuo met Talia, a young Shuriman stone mage who had escaped from the Noxian military. Seeing in her an unlikely but promising student, and in himself an even more unlikely teacher, Yasuo decided to train her in the ways of elemental magic, combining the manipulation of wind with the shaping of stone. This marked a turning point for Yasuo, as he finally embraced the teachings of Elder Suma. Later, news arrived from across the sea that the ancient city of Shurima had been resurrected. Yasuo and Talia parted ways, but not before Yasuo gifted her the treasured maple seed, its lesson now fully understood. As Talia returned to her native desert sands, Yasuo set out for his own village, driven by determination to rectify his past mistakes and uncover the true killer of his old master. Shortly after Yasuo's return, his hometown plunged into chaos. Not only was the traitorous Yasuo back, but a new suspect had emerged in the murder of Suma, Riven from Noxus. Evidence pointed to Riven as her adoptive parents' hidden sword matched the one found at the murder scene. Despite Yasuo's status as a prime suspect, the people criticized him for audaciously returning. After numerous hearings, it was concluded that the death of Elder Suma was indeed an accident. He met his demise by his own hand while attempting to destroy the sword using the wind technique. As the sword shattered, a shard struck him, claiming his life. Through a series of events, Riven regained her memories of the past and tried to confess her mistake and pay for his sins. To her surprise, Ionia forgave her and embraced her as a member of the village. Yasuo, who empathizes with Riven's painful past and wounds, also genuinely understands and accepts her plea. This cleared Yasuo of long-standing accusations, but he still couldn't find the peace of mind he sought. He couldn't forgive himself for abandoning his master with a single blow and making the wrong choice that led to his brother's death. The weight of these decisions continued to burden Yasuo's soul. The unidentified voice came to him again. Yasuo eventually made his way to the Spirit Blossom Festival in Waylay, though he harbored little hope that its healing rituals would soothe his tormented heart. The nightmares and hallucinations persisted, and he found himself losing the will to go on. Yasuo's desperate struggle to escape his haunted past led him to the brink of losing touch with reality. It was there, in a chasm of disconnected thoughts, that he encountered Azakana, a demonic entity that thrived on the pain and regret of those consumed by it. Yasuo realized that the haunting voice in his mind belonged to this monstrous entity. Confronted by the relentless specters of his past, Yasuo faltered and knelt before the demon, surrendering to its consuming presence. In his mind echoed the words, "It's all over now, and I'll welcome any end if it means release from the agony of my past." Suddenly, An unknown masked man appeared and defeated the Azakana that was about to devour Yasuo. It was unmistakably his older brother, fully expecting his brother to take vengeance. Yasuo was surprised when Yone let him go with little more than a bitter blessing. May the spirit of Ionia guide you. His last words swept through Yasuo's mind like a spring wind. After that day, Yasuo left Neonia. But it wasn't the same cowardly retreat as in the past. No longer running away from atonement and guilt, he took a new leap forward to find his true destiny with the past in his heart. As a child, his older brother asked him, "The wind runs away or chases you?" For so many years he had been running away, from suffocating death and heavy sins, from his own ugly false heart that denied and turned away from his own karma. But now I will pursue the truth. The wind doesn't run away or chase, it just flows in. It just swept by. It's a wanderlust with no promise of tomorrow, like the wind that stops and scatters. If you haven't lost your way, the wind can always pick up again. My sword has only one purpose. I will not forget who I am.